Hi guys, Jordan from B&B Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your Burstner Aviano. So, starting with the bonnet up here. A little bit awkward to get down and get to bits and pieces in these A classes, but you know, they still make it all reasonably accessible. So you've got your washer fluid over here on the left hand side. Engine coolant sits in this reservoir just here at the front. Brake fluid reservoir is this one up here, just attached to the servo at the back there. Cylinder, you've got a couple of aircon pipes, which are those ones that you can see just there. Any of them with those really big crimped bits at the end, they're usually all sort of aircon bits and pieces. You've got your engine oil cap just there with the little yellow sort of container on it, and your engine oil dipstick is the red topped one just down there, as you can see on the video. Engine battery in these vehicles sits under the floor in the cab. So the positive terminal for your engine battery, if you want to jump start the vehicle, is this one just here. So you put your positive on there, and then you should have a little negative prong somewhere around here. Where it might be, I'm not 100%. I think it normally sits around here somewhere, so they've probably relocated it. There's a little negative point just here, look. It's got a couple of the earths going onto that. There's probably a proper earth somewhere that you can actually, that you're supposed to go off, but anything like that really, any sort of decent earth like that will be fine for your battery earth. If you want to jump start the vehicle, like I said, the positive sits under that little cap in there. You've got an Eberspacher air conditioning system, so you've got the little sticker just there and the sort of part number for that just to the right, and your original chassis plate is that one just there. So the other thing I want to mention of these bonnets, or these A classes, is that they're not really built the same way as the the original ones. Sometimes it will take two people to open these up, so if you pull the lever, which I'll show you where it is in a minute, pull the lever, you need to kind of pull on the bonnet whilst it's being pulled, if that makes sense. So one person pulling the lever, one person pulling the bonnet, and then it'll sort of unlatch itself. It's something we find a lot of the A classes, because they have to make them sort of, you know, they've got to make this plate up to make it work and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, pretty normal. I'll just show you where that bonnet release is. So it's inside here, just there. Sorry about that video there. So just inside there, inside that little, under these little cup holders. Other than that, there's not really much to show you in the passenger side, apart from you've got your wing mirror adjustment here and your electric window. Your diesel filling cap, this one just here, not to be confused with your freshwater filling point. So please do not put diesel in here or water in there, because either way it's going to be really bad. We've seen it a few times, and it's a case of having a new tank usually, especially on the freshwater side. So please just make sure that you have a look at the top of the cap there. The one closest to the door is the diesel, and the one further back is your freshwater. Right, under here you've got your leisure battery down here, so you could fit another one next door to that if you wanted to. You've got a nice new looking leisure battery just there, if you should need to get to that. I've got it hooked up at the moment, and the charge seems to be, you know, there's good charge going into it and everything's working as it should. Next locker we come across is your toilet cassette locker. So to actually remove that, you lift up on this little yellow tab down here and pull the whole thing towards you. Once you've done that, you can take the whole thing out. The only thing I need to show you really is you empty it out from here, and when you are actually emptying physically, you need to hold this little yellow button down there, and basically it's like an air pressure release valve. So make sure that you do that. Other than that, you've got a freshwater flush on this system, so you haven't got to worry about any separate flush fluids or anything like that. So just as long as you've got a little bit of water in your freshwater tank, you'll be able to flush your toilet. Obviously I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. This vent just here, where you can see the condensation building up underneath, is your boiler vent. The condensation is completely normal. They literally all do that, all of these combi boilers. all it is literally just condensation building up. So there's a flame burning inside, and there, if you feel your hand underneath here, there's loads of really hot air coming out, and it's kind of like sort of wet air basically. So when that releases, it just literally just drips a little bit of water down there. Totally normal. It doesn't mean there's any water leaking from inside your boiler or anything like that. It's just literally normal for these. So that's where you can feel your hot air coming out from your boiler if you wanted to double check that that was definitely working. You've then got your hookup point, nice and high. So if you're at home or at your campsite, wherever you are, hookup cable goes in there. That'll automatically start charging up your leisure battery down there, and also give you access to using any 3-pin sockets or anything 240 volt related in there. So I know on this particular vehicle you can use your fridge on mains and your boiler on mains as well, actually, to heat your water up. So I'll show you how to use all of that in a minute, but that's what you can do. A really good sized gas locker. You've got space for 2 6-kilo propane bottles in here. So in case you weren't aware, I'm not sure if you've had a van before or not, but these 6-kilo propane bottles will literally last you so long. You know, it's quite incredible how long they actually last, bearing in mind the size of them. So you've got a 2020 date on your pigtail there. It's a hand wheel, so turn around to the right to tighten the hand wheel up, and then round to the left to loosen it off. Kind of the opposite way around on the gas bottle itself. To turn it on, you go anti-clockwise around to the left, basically pushing it up, and to turn it off, you go clockwise round to the right. I'll leave that on for a minute. You haven't got to worry about any of this over here. This is all just for us and our testing and things like that. So there's no gas leaks whatsoever in this vehicle. You know, everything's perfectly normal. Make sure that you turn the gas bottle off before you start driving. It does tell you that up there, but it's so important that you do that. And also, the other thing to point out is if you've got things lit up on gas, so at the moment I've got the fridge lit up on gas and the boiler, I can actually hear like a hissing noise from the propane bottle, and that's completely normal. It doesn't mean it's leaking. As soon as you turn those 2 appliances off, or any appliances off, you'll stop hearing that noise. Obviously, switch it off before you start driving, but when you hear that hissing noise when you've got it on and you've got appliances on, it just means that it's drawing gas through, basically. So I'll close that locker up. So we fitted the extra rails on your bike rack for you. So you've got the 4-bike rack now with the poles according. Reversing camera up there. It's all there. Your wastewater drain is this one just down here. So you literally just turn this to allow the water to come out. So make it go in line with the pipe to actually allow it to empty out, basically. Whacking great big tow bar on the back there. I'm not sure exactly what the towing weight would be on it, but it does have bits and pieces on there. So you can have a little look in there and see what you know, what your payload is and things like that. Alright, so this garage locker is actually quite important. Let me just leave this light on for a minute. So your actual boiler sits over here in this corner. Couple of bits I want to show you. So any of these circular vents around the vehicle are all of your boiler vents, basically. So that's where the hot air pumps around to. You've got 240 volt and gas that you can use on this one. So that's, you know, always handy. If you don't have any gas, if you don't want to use your gas, but you do have a hookup plugged in, you can literally just switch it over to that to do the hot water. But yeah, so I'll show you how that works properly on the inside. But the thing I want to show you is these 2 little vents down here, these little things down here. So this it's kind of a bit awkward to explain. The yellow one at the back there, the little lever that's facing horizontal, that's kind of like a general water dropout. So if you wanted to drain out all of your fresh water and everything like that, you can do that from there. But if you wanted to drain out the water inside your boiler, which I'll explain to you in a minute why you would want to do that, but all you need to do that is push this little red button down. It does tell you that on the top there, there's a little diagram, but basically if you've got it lifted up, then the water won't drop out from the boiler, it'll stay inside. But if you push it down, all the water will just drain straight out. The reason that you'd want to drain that out is if you're not going to be using the vehicle and you're not going to be keeping this van warm, and the boiler is full up of water, which I'll show you how to work out in a minute. If the boiler's full of water, and you don't use the van and it's winter and it freezes inside the boiler, what will happen is all of those pipes there and all the bits and pieces inside will start to crack as the water expands when it freezes. So it's just so important that you drain that out by pushing this little button down as and when you need to. If you're going to be using the van and keeping it warm inside, you do not need to worry about that one bit. But if you're not, if you know that you're going to have water in the vehicle and it's going to get freezing cold, you need to make sure that you drain that out by pushing it down. But yeah, so basically, if you're going to leave the van for any sort of like long period of time, and you know it's going to be really cold, or even if you're going to leave it for a long period of time, you should do this anyway, because otherwise things will start getting sort of stagnant and a little bit smelly. So if you're going to leave the van for a little while, sort of regardless, push the little red button down to drain your boiler out, and then lift the yellow tab upright so it's vertical to drain all the water out. All right. Well, that's it. I don't mean to scare you by saying any of that, but that's just it's just, you know, the boiler's the most important part of this vehicle, really, or at least the most expensive. So we'll I'll switch this light off. But yeah. All right. So these two vents here. So you got this one at the bottom and the big one at the top. Are your vents for your fridge and your cooker. The reason the one at the top is a lot bigger is because you've got the top of the fridge, and then above that you've got the cooker and the grill. So that has to be a much bigger vent up there to give better circulation. Step to get in, you need to have your 12-volt switch on up there, which I'll show you how to do. But you need to have that on before this will work. So I'll just show you. Goes in. And the other thing I will mention is that it's really nice and sturdy. So if ever there's going to be a problem with a step, the first thing you notice is that it'll be a bit loose feeling when you're stepping on it. But this is one of the strongest ones I've ever felt. So really good quality vehicle. Got a bit of a chassis plate there, so it's 4 ton, all that sort of stuff. This is actually the original foot plate when you walk in, so for when it used to be a van, but it's just a bit of storage now because it's an A-class, obviously. They've changed all of that, so nice storage in there. Yeah, all right, so I think that's about all I can show you on the outside, so we'll just run around the inside now. Well, not run around it, but anyway, right, I'm going to turn the boiler off for a minute, it's making a right racket, and I want you to be able to hear me. So, okay, so up here above the door, you've got your control panel. In these Burstners, they keep it really nice and simple. I really don't think you can go far wrong. But so all you have to do, anything 12 volts, so that's lights, ignition, anything at all really, apart from your 3-pin sockets, needs to have this 12-volt button on and the light on next to the 12-volt sign. So the way you do that is you literally just push up on this and it'll turn your 12-volt on. Push down on it to this little circuit break symbol and it'll turn all the 12-volt stuff off. Similar with the water pump, if I go down on the water pump, it'll turn all the power off to the pump and it won't work. If I push up, it will allow you to use the water pump as and when you need to. Temperature inside and temperature outside is all there. You can go up for inside, down for outside. You can set your time if you want to. You can turn the actual clock off, it's up to you. Fresh water level is pushing up on this one just here. So if you look at the bottom scale there, half a tank of fresh water. Push down to see the wastewater, should be empty. There you go. Push up on this very left-hand one, you see your leisure battery voltage, and you look at the top scale for that. So just shy of 14 volts. And press down to see your engine battery voltage. Now the reason that the leisure battery voltage is way up high like that is because we're hooked up on the mains. And like I said to you outside, the minute you plug your hookup cable into the vehicle, your charger will just straight away, it'll just start charging up your leisure battery. And it'll then automatically again allow you to use any of these 3-pin sockets here, just like a household one basically. So it literally just sends 240 volts straight in like you have at home. And then so you can use sort of whatever you want plugged into there. On that note, the only thing you do have to sort of bear in mind when you're plugging stuff into the vehicle is if you go to a campsite and you're plugged into a pole which is 10 amps, rated at 10 amps, you got to think about things like If you have your fridge on mains, that's about 1 amp. If you have your boiler on mains, that's about 3 amps. And then if you plug a hairdryer in or a kettle or whatever like that, you know, that could be 8 amps. So if you go over the amount of amps by, you know, the amount of stuff that you're using by what pole you're plugged into, then basically what will happen is you'll just trip it out, and it will just stop working. So just basically, I hope that makes sense, but basically there's not a huge amount, there's nothing crazy in here that works on mains. It's usually the space heaters. If you've got a space heater instead of a combi boiler, if they've got mains operation, they can go up to like 8 amps. But in here you can't really go too far wrong. But essentially, if you're going to be using things on mains and then you're going to plug some kind of, I don't know, a toaster or whatever like that in, just have a little double check on the back of the box of your appliance and just check how many amps they pull. Because like I said, the fridge will be about 1 amp on mains and the boiler about 3. So as long as you can sort of, you know, if you're plugged into a 10 amp pole, if you allow yourself about 6 amps for whatever else you want to plug in, then you should be okay. All right, and then vice versa, if you're going to plug into a 13 amp pole, you probably don't really need to worry about anything. So yeah, just something to point out. So that's your sort of levels. The other thing I want to tell you is that your water pump here, so I've got it switched on at the moment. The water pump, it's the same in pretty much every single Burstner, and in fact a lot of the German built vehicles. You've got what's called a submersible pump. And so the fresh water tank, which probably sits under this seat here, will basically just have a little submerged pump inside it. And literally, as long as it's sat in the water and you pull your tap, it'll draw the water through. The main difference, and the reason I'm telling you, is that it doesn't work on pressure, it works on power. So you've got a little what's called a micro switch inside each one of your taps, so that the second you pull it up, the switch opens up, makes a connection, and then sends power to that pump, which then draws water through to here. So unlike a lot of the other taps where they work on pressure, you're much less likely to get leaks and things like this in this vehicle because there's no real pressure at any of the taps. All right, so it only works. And the other thing is, if you've got a very, very slight leak anywhere on some of the normal vans with the normal pumps, with the pressure pumps, if there's a leak, that pump will just kick in, out, in, out, in, out all night long, unless you switch it off, obviously, because it's trying to find that pressure, because they turn themselves off when they get the pressure. So, yeah, anyway, I'll just show you this now. So, the pump switch is on, and then water comes through. You still get really good pressure at the taps, even though it's not a pressure run pump. And then round to the left for the hot, which I wouldn't be surprised if it's already warm. Yeah, there you go, warm water. And that's been on about 5 minutes before I started the video, so you got warm water after about half an hour. Okay, so that's how that works. The next thing I want to tell you is, like I was showing you in the back locker there, you've got your boiler dropout. You need to, before you start trying to turn the boiler on, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, you absolutely need to do what I've just done there. So check your water level. So like I said, we've got about half a tank of fresh water, so that's brilliant. That means then you can flush your toilet, you can use your pumps, things like that. But the first thing you want to do before you can start using your boiler is make sure that it's full up. And the way that you do that is turn your pump switch on, turn your tap around to the hot side, so that's facing us now, and just pull it through. If you pull that up on the hot side with the pump switch on and no water comes through, it either means your boiler's empty or you've got no water in your tank. So the reason that is that the waste, sorry, not the waste, you've got 2 feeds of water in the van, you've got hot and cold, obviously. The cold water, literally, is just a pipe which runs from your fresh tank to the taps, yeah? But the hot water is another pipe that comes straight from your fresh tank, but it goes through your boiler first before it comes to any of the other taps. So if the boiler is empty, you won't get any water coming through this tap on the hot side until it is full. You cannot use your boiler until you do that. Or, well, you can, but that's the only way of knowing properly that your boiler's full. If your boiler's empty and you try and light it up, like I'll show you in a minute, what'll happen is you'll basically be boiling an empty kettle, and all of the wires and all the pipes and all that sort of stuff will get too hot and they'll melt. So you really need to make sure that you do that first. It only takes 2 seconds to do it, but it just proves to you that your boiler's full before you start messing about with trying to turn it on. So you got a little light switch just to the left of this here, nice little LED strip, which actually looks really nice, to be fair. They've done a really nice job of it. I've just noticed as well that that turns those on up there too. Didn't see that before. Okay, so your boiler dials are these ones just here. So you've got a combi boiler. It's not a combi like a household combi, in the way that it doesn't heat the water up as you pull it through the tap. So if you don't turn the boiler on half an hour before you start trying to pull the hot water through, it doesn't heat water on demand, if that makes sense. You have to heat the water up first before it'll come through hot through the taps. The reason it's a combi is because it does heating and hot water, basically. Right, so if you want to have hot water only, assuming you've already double checked the boiler's full, you go up 1 for 40 degrees of hot water, or up 2 for 60 degrees of hot water. The dial in the middle is basically just, you know, how desperate are you for it, essentially. And that's really only for the heating anyway. So up 1 or up 2 is hot water only. So that's what you call your summer setting, because there's no heating and there's just hot water. All right, I've just heard that light up straight away. And then, like I said to you, after about half an hour or so, you'll have warm water. It might take a little bit longer than that to actually get fully hot, you know, to its proper temperature. But when it does get the proper temperature, it will switch itself off as and when it needs to. So back round to the middle. Sorry for the camera. Back round to the middle turns it off. Down 1 is heating only. So that literally the boiler will light up, and then you get heating pumping around through any of these little circular vents around the vehicle. You'll have a few more dotted about. I can see there's one down there. There'll be one in the bathroom as well. There was one in the garage. So the whole place just keeps really nicely warm. And if you go one more down, right the way down to the bottom, you get heating and hot water at 60 degrees. So down is what you call your winter settings, and up is your summer settings. So up is hot water only, down is heating and hot water. So that's how you use it, and that's all on gas. All right, this is your gas. If you want to heat the water up via your electric element, quite literally all you have to do is just press that button. You get a little light working inside of there, and as long as your hookup is plugged in, that'll work. And like I said to you, it draws around sort of 3 amps. Sometimes a little bit less than that. So you can switch this off back to the middle. And if you want to heat your water up via the electric element, just leave that one on. And then again, after about half an hour to an hour or so, you'll have nice hot water coming out through your taps. All right. So you've got a bit of storage underneath the fridge there. And I suppose the next thing logical would be to show you your fridge. So, the reason that they're all like this, kind of like one on top of the other, is that you've got this Dometic, it's all Dometic stuff. So basically what happens is you get to use the fridge, which is these two, but the oven and grill are sort of built into this same unit. So you can use them, you know, all kind of like matches. It looks really nice. So that's the reason they do it. So this fridge is, it's kind of an AES fridge. It's an automatic energy selector, which is why you got this little auto button at the bottom. But in my personal opinion, I mean, obviously it's up to you. You can leave it on auto and just leave it to do its thing if you want, but I find it so much easier just to literally just choose which one you want to use. So it's up to you. Right, so at the moment, I'm aiming up towards this one, and I've got this little amber light on here next to this little gas symbol. So that means that the gas is lit up, and that's what's cooling the fridge down. If I went down one more, my hookup is plugged in at the moment, and I've got a little green symbol next to the hookup point, and that means that the element in the back of the fridge, the mains element, is cooling the fridge down. And if I had the engine running, I'd get a little green light next to this one. It's red at the moment because the engine isn't running. and that'll basically just keep the fridge at temperature for when the engine's running and when you're driving. If I went down one more to auto, I would imagine what would happen is it will basically just choose whichever it thinks is more efficient. So I reckon it will probably choose the mains, because I've got mains plugged in. So if I go down to auto, let's just see what happens. There you go. So down to auto, and then you see you get green light at auto, just telling you that the auto what sort of function is working, and it'll also show you what function it's actually using. So it's up to you how you want to do that. But I just think choosing them one by one gives you a bit more flexibility. It means that you can literally choose which one you want, because the gas and the mains will get the fridge cold beautifully on their own, but the 12 volt will only keep the fridge at temperature, whatever the temperature is basically that you set it to. It won't really move very much from it. So what you have to do to use these fridges properly is, if, for example, if you're going to go on holiday tomorrow, I would recommend that you either light it up on gas or put it on mains the night before you go away, with all of your stuff in it, and then the next morning when you come to actually leaving, you'll be able to switch over to 12 volt and then start your engine up, drive away, and when you get to where you're going, switch it back to one of the other two. The reason for that is that the 12 volt element just doesn't get the fridge cold on its own. It's not sort of powerful enough. It's brilliant for holding the temperature whilst you're driving, but not so good at getting the fridge cold on its own. So you need to make sure you have it cold first. All right. And on the other side, and also you don't have to worry about this really, it's sort of irrelevant. I wouldn't worry about that too much. The only time I'd ever worry about it is if it was getting too cold inside the freezer. Just turn it down a little bit. Push in and round to the right on this one here to get your grill to light up. Make sure that it lights up both sides. You can have a little look down there and double check. Let go of that, and it will stay on. So that won't go any further around to the right then. Back to the middle, we'll switch the grill off, and then you've got 100 all the way around to 250 for your oven. So push in and round to the left to light the oven up. You see the gas flame at the back, and then release that. So you can then set your temperature, shut the door up, and away you go. You need to have your grill, when you got the grill lit up, you need to make sure that the door here is open. So that's all of that. You've got a 3-burner hob just here. You will need an ignition to light any of those up. It's the same again on lots and lots of German vehicles. That's just the way they are. What was I going to say? You've got a thermocouple on each of these. So basically it senses burning gas. So if you lit any 3 of these up, and left the button on like that, you know, imagine this one here is lit up and I've got the button left on like that because it's still lit. If you had the window open or something like that, or somebody blew the flame out, the thermocouple there, the little prong of metal at the back, will recognise that. It'll recognise that it's just pumping through unburnt gas basically, and it'll switch that off. So it does take up, you know, about sort of 5-10 seconds for that to actually work, but it's part of the habitation check to double check that. Let's see what else we've got. Obviously I've shown you your sink there. It's all nice and simple. Got a little bin down there under the cupboard. I've shown you your dials down there. I wanted to show you in your wardrobe here because it's quite important. So you've got all of your paperwork that we have with the vehicle is in this big brown box. You've got 3 gas isolator taps just there. So the one on the left is for your fridge. That one there is your hob, and that one there is your boiler. So if you wanted to isolate any of those from the gas, if you thought there was an issue or whatever, you can turn them 90 degrees and that will literally just switch all the gas off. Trip switch down here. So again, typical for a German vehicle, there's just literally the one. It looks like 2, but it's actually just they're both together, I think. So essentially, if you plug something really dodgy into one of the plugs around here, it will just trip from there. Either it will trip from that or it will trip whatever you're plugged into. So if you try putting that back up first and it doesn't work, have a little look outside to the pole you're plugged into. And then you've got your manual tilt and turn aerial and TV aerial booster, all there, all plugged in, ready to go. So yeah, you can have a little look through here. There's a couple of little bits on here telling you how to use it, and there probably would be some paperwork in there for it as well. But that's up to you whether or not you want to use that. Right, so I've shown you your fridge, shown you all that sort of stuff. Bathroom. Lots of nice, don't forget we do have to clean it in here still, don't worry. Lots of nice bits and pieces in the bathroom, so you've got nice and sort of like mirrors in here, and push to get these open. You know, nice quality. I mean, like, look at the thickness of that wood, it's unbelievable. even in the bathroom, everything's really nice quality. Right, so you've got a light switch under here which does this sort of like under cabinet lighting, and you've got this switch just here which does these. These are really, really bright, by the way, so you know, at night or wherever. I mean, at night I'm imagining these will probably be bright enough, but you know, it's all good. Toilet cassette is really, really simple the way you use it. So you push this blue button here to pump your flush fluid around, and once you've got whatever you need to do in there, open the flap like that, which drains it into the cassette, and then close the flap back over again. It's really important to close the flap back over again, because if you don't, you will not be able to take that cassette out from outside. It locks it in place. So I'm not going to show you all the other, I mean, you got your tap here obviously in your sink, and the shower is behind there as well, but it's also self-explanatory that I don't even feel like I need to show you. It's all just there, it's all where it needs to be. You take this bit off from here and connect it on up there, and you've got a full size shower, sort of like a separate shower almost, in there. It doesn't make a huge amount of noise when you're driving. I don't know if you've got a van already, but motorhomes do make a bit of a racket when they're driving, but because these are such good quality, they don't tend to. Your starter packs down here, so everything you should need will be in there. And right, so I think all I'm going to show you now really is just stuff in the cab. There's not a huge amount else to show you, I don't think. Right, so 6-speed manual gearbox. Reverse is over and up to the top left. You need to hold up this little tab at the back to get that to go up there. You've then got cruise control that you can work from this little dial down here, so don't get that confused with the indicator one up here. Not that you can really. Indicators and lights work from this left hand stalk, so you've got side lights, main beam, and washers and wipers from the right. Like I said to you, you've got air conditioning down here, so that works from this button just here. Obviously that'll only work when you've got the number set above 1 or above. You've then got all of your heater settings that work from there as they should. You can lock and unlock the cab from inside, which is really helpful, and you've got your hazard lights just here. Reversing camera works perfectly well because I've literally used it a minute ago to put it here. It's a Eco Group camera, so that's a nice quality camera. I would imagine it's probably fitted not too long after it was built, but I don't know, but looking at it I would imagine it's been there for a little while. Nice quality thing. Other than that, I've shown you where your bonnet release is down there. I've tried to be quite thorough with the video, because you know, it's a nice quality vehicle, and you know, I just want you to be able to see how everything works really. So you know, I've come in here, literally everything is working absolutely brilliantly. Sometimes these fridges and the boilers take a little while to light up after they've been sat for, you know, a couple of weeks, but these ones haven't. They've literally just worked absolutely first time. So yeah, before you start driving away, you just make sure that all of your gas appliances are off. Make sure that all of these things like the lids here are all down rather than up, because you'd be amazed how much noise and how much mess they make when they do fall down and shatter. Make sure that you turn your gas off before you start driving. All your windows and skylights, make sure they're down and in their locked position. Other than that, that's about it. So I hope I've covered everything you think I should have. If there's anything you think you want covering over again, just let us know. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.